kama ni 20 seconds. The county revenue allocation. Amendment has been introduced. Greetings wherever you're watching us from, and welcome to another edition of Between the Lines. Today on my clipboard we discuss the county revenue sharing formula. The nation has been at a stalemate for over 3 weeks now as the Senate and the members of the Senate continue to debate and disagree on the formula that will be used in sharing of funds among the 47 counties in our great republic. On the show today I have Mr. Ben Kihanya. Welcome to the show. Mr. Kihanya will be helping us discuss the revenue sharing formula and help us also understand what it means to the different counties of our republic. Welcome to the show again. And I think maybe we can just start from the beginning. What do you think is causing the rift and the disagreement between the senators on the sharing formula to be used of the funds in our country?
To begin with,
Mhm.
we have to go back in history
Yes.
to 1960,
Mm-hmm.
when there was a session of paper number 10 that was authored by Tom Boyle
Mhm.
and Kibaki.
Mm-hmm.
The country had just gained independence for about 2 years
Mhm.
when the fundamental question of the economy came about.
Mhm.
And the fundamental question was one:
Mhm.
do we develop areas with high potential for returns, for quick returns,
Mhm.
or do we develop them entire country
Mm.
and then go slow on the to expect from investment.
Maybe you could tell us which are these areas of high potential and which are the areas of low potential.
In fact, the best way to categorize that economy, you can categorize it as the multiplying economy, which basically means whatever the railway was put, it was put for the safety reason. But once it invested there and wanted to turn for the money, quick return for the money. So in other areas where the railway did not pass, where it was not considered areas of high return, the areas were neglected. So that from the genesis of some areas being not developed and other areas being
At the genesis of what you are having today, where now part of Kenya is, can compare it with almost the first world, while other countries or other areas are still very backward. So that is the genesis. And when we now wrote the new constitution, we now became cognizant of that fact. And it was put in the constitution that we cannot continue living together if some areas are continue being neglected, left behind completely, while others are almost joining the first one. So what formula of, or how are we to solve the problem between the areas that were going so fast and areas that completely were behind? So now we were discarding the sessional paper 19 or the sessional paper number 10 of 1965. That is it. Yeah. Okay. If you look at it from a political point of view, the clarion call of one man, one vote, one shilling sounds very good from a purely political point of view. But does it make economic sense? Because again, you have to look at it from an economic problem, because resource sharing is more of an economic problem than a political one. But again, if you wanted to politicize just about anything, you could. Now, let's ask ourselves, where do people actually invest? Do people invest in areas that already others have invested? I'm avoiding to use the term over-invested, or people prefer to invest in areas that are virgin, areas that you can be able to put little money and you get maximum return. That is fundamental even in this, because of two reasons. One, if you were to invest in areas where already the investment is high, the cost of investment becomes considerable high. If you go to areas that have not been developed before, the cost of investment becomes, the cost of the capital that you require to start any investment becomes considerably low. If you look at that point of view, then at any given time, there's a balance in a country between taxing, because you have to tax probably areas where you're producing resources, and taking it or opening up areas that have not been completely been opened. And to look at it, it's better when you look at it from the GDP point of view, other than from only a monetary point of view. So there are two things in the economy. From which part are you looking at this so-called economic problem? Because let me put an example. If you purchase a bottle of water in Turkana, who is benefiting? Is it the manufacturer in Nairobi, or is it somebody in Turkana? Again, you have to ask yourself that. So if it is the bottle was manufactured in Nairobi and it's being bought in Turkana, the person is benefiting again the most, the person in Nairobi. So there are so many dynamics in this economic point of view, because I've had people say probably people who are contributing more or people who are contributing less or what have you. But if you look at it from an economic point of view, that's why the CRA, the professional view, should be the overriding view, because you must now consider all the other, can you say, all the other pointers as to what you're building, and that this is, you're only building the economy.
It's good that you've mentioned about investment in several places.
Yeah.
And actually this has been something that has also been coming out quite clearly, that there's been a discussion, should we invest in large lands but few people, or should we invest or pump our money and our resources to places that have big population, hence bigger results?
Okay. My choice would be to invest in areas where you don't have a lot of people, so that you can take the extra people, the extra populations to those areas, to open up new territory, so that you can be able to tax more people, so that you can be able to take care of the rural urban migration, so that you can be able to decongest our slums, so that you can be able to create new revenue, new places that you can be able to tax. That is if you are to ask me. But you cannot do that completely. There's no one time where you will remove all the monies in areas that are considered developed and take all that money to areas that are not developed. So the question is, where do you strike the balance between, opening up new territories and ensuring that it does not affect the quality of life of the areas that are already populated? Because why don't people want to go and invest in those so-called, can you call hinder? It's because there are no hospitals down there, there are no schools down there, there are no roads down there. So the capital investment that is required to open up new places are what scares individuals from opening those areas. And therefore it is incumbent on any responsible government to come up with formulas of opening those areas that are considered hindrance. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, when we devolved the functions of the government in 2010, when we promulgated the constitution, counties were given mandates to ensure that now to develop these respective 47 counties.
Yes.
10 years later, we do have some counties that have considerable development in terms of infrastructure, in terms of things like health, roads, and other things, and other amenities. Okay. 10 years later, we do have some counties that still lag behind in terms of this. Now, from an independent perspective, one may ask, in the 10 years that these counties have been in power, what have they done such that they still lag behind over others?
Yeah, to put it in perspective, it took 40 years of marginalization, because remember the new constitution came into being in 2010. So from 1963, if an area was completely neglected, in 10 years, the development cannot be, well, it will be foolhardy to expect that it would have caught up with areas that were developed for 40 continuous years. So there are changes. You go to Makueni, there is Makueni Milk now, a semi-desert, a town that everybody considered was, almost barren. You have Makueni Milk. You go to Makueni, you get that now they are processing their mangoes. So you go there, and now we've had 2 famines, but you've not had them requesting for famine relief. Previously, the hardest hit areas, wherever there was famine, was in the Kambani areas. But over the past 10 years, they almost becoming food sufficient, which is a very good thing. Again, yeah, there are counties that have continued lagging behind. But remember, the first article of our constitution says power belongs to the people. It's the people who appoint the officials who run those counties. And every development or every coin that is spent in a county must go through the process of public participation. So if people are not participating adequately, if people are not tracking their budgets, then their counties will continue lagging behind. But those people who take responsibility of asking themselves, why are we putting so much money in this and not in this? Those are the counties that will develop. And it was expected. Out of the 47 counties, it was expected those ones who take their time to put in people who care about their areas, who care about their counties, will develop. Those areas where the human resource, including ordinary wananchis, that would participate in matters governance, would benefit. The ones that would just let the old, from 10 kind of spending, where they don't care one way or the other, they will be left behind. They will lag behind. And again, we are again now going to Article 204, where now we have the revenue sharing, where we have the equalization fund. At the dividing of the funds, 0.5% of all that money must now go again to counties to make sure that for 25 years they continually receive that money. Then after that, we'll go for a review. In this review, we are going to say, have these counties caught up with the other counties, or this need to add 5 more years, after which it will be considered they have been equalized. So that's why you find us in this quagmire of trying to come up with formulas or mechanism of equity, which is a good thing. It's a healthy thing to do.
And I think there's a lot that even these county governments, they do carry a responsibility, because some of these counties, yes. We've seen this, we've read reports, most of, let me not say most, but some of these counties have been plagued by corruption.
That is,
and corruption has played a huge part in some of these counties not moving forward.
Yeah, that's what I said. Whereas previously the old constitution, power rested on the republic. Article 1 of the old constitution said Kenya is a sovereign republic. Article 1 of the new constitution says all sovereign power belong to the people of Kenya. Meaning, if your county is lagging behind, it is your responsibility as an individual citizen. Remember, one citizen can stop the entire budget of a county if the rules, if they feel that the rules governing the way resources are shared, resources are, public participation and all that, it is open that even one Kenyan, one individual can stop spending from a county, because sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya. It is incumbent on the people to fight corruption, because corruption does not help anybody else in the county apart from the few individuals who steal. It is also the responsibility of every citizen to ensure that monies or resources are used prudently. because these are our taxes. Power, all sovereign power rests in the people of Kenya. All sovereign power no longer rests in the Republic.
So the discussion continues, and we're still waiting for the Senate to reconvene. For those who are joining us, it's another edition of Between the Lines, and today we are discussing the third basis for revenue allocation to the counties that has been a stalemate for the past 3 weeks, with the Senate not being able to pass a decision or a formula that will be used in addressing this. Keep sending in your suggestions, your comments, using the hashtag Between the Lines, and we will sample them as the show continues. Now, back to you, Mr. Ben. So there has been a section of individuals that have been fronting the idea that we should allocate funds based even on the population that is there.
Yeah.
And they're using the 2019 census report that has several counties with bigger populations over others.
Yeah.
And some Mount Kenya region leaders have been fronting that formula of one man, one shilling, one vote.
Yeah.
Among the counties that are set to lose a lot, should these be adapted, are the counties of Mandera, Wajir, Garissa, Marsabit, Makueni in Eastern. Some of these counties have less number of people as compared to others. Now, does this mean that we will continue having a situation where some counties will lag behind of others? Should we adapt this formula?
That is one of the fear. One of the fear is that the moment you begin a process and then halfway through you run away from your process, you are always beginning, you are always planning instead of implementation. The other thing, of course, is that every 5 years or so we review. That's why this is the that time we are reviewing what we had planned and what we had planned to implement the sharing. And it is put there purposely so that should there be anything that is glaring, is obviously not working, it should be corrected. But in a place like one man, one shilling, one vote, it is incumbent of Kenyans to ask themselves, why do we have less people in some areas and more people in others? Well, that is fundamental. Because if, and this is just a hypothesis, if there are enough people everywhere, then you wouldn't even care about the population. Then how do you populate the areas that are not populated already? The only way to make sure that the populations are able to move from areas of high concentration of population to low concentration of people is to open up. How do you open up? There is only one way. You develop those areas that are not adequately developed. Take water there, take schools there, take hospitals there, and somehow take roads there, and somehow you are going to get a lot of people preferring to go to areas of less population rather than stay in congested areas that are already developed. And it's the only way to go about this. So the moment you take a very big chunk of a county's development, you are replanning. You are making them now plan, and they plan, we are going to be using this money to do, maybe build hospitals, maybe open up with roads, maybe you are again stalling the development that they had put into place. Because remember, this is not a household budget. These are budgets that go for about 5 years, budgets that go for 10 years, expectation of money coming in and doing certain things. So this idea of you start, you stop, you stall, you start again, it's not a very good formula of development.
Do you think that the one man, one shilling formula is good? Is it equitable enough?
No, that's just a slogan. In economics terms, to me, just some slogans. because nobody stops you from following where the government is taking the shilling. First of all, because the freedom of movement, you can invest anywhere in this republic, and at the end of the day, the moment you overpopulate an area, do you continue growing? Does the economy continue growing, or do you have more slums? And with more slums, more diseases. And with more diseases, you start investing more in health. And you know, the moment any money goes to health, it disappears. You just buy medicine, you just probably have patients and all. So the moment you stick to sloganeering, rather than looking at things from a purely economic point of view, you lose it. And you lose it completely by a mile. Because look, what will you get at the end of the day if you continue investing in areas you've already invested? You're going to find the high cost of living, high standard of living. You're going to get bigger slums that are harder to control. Crime rate is going to increase. So you're going to spend a lot of money doing policing instead of doing development. So at the end of the day, really, apart from the slogan that sounds very good and fancy, at the end of the day, from an economic point of view, you always want to open new areas so that you also get new avenues of taxation as a country. Our country's GDP is valued at over 10 trillion, slightly over 10 trillion shillings. Out of this, again, we want to disabuse the idea that only certain sections are taxed. Out of this, the biggest chunk that we receive in terms of taxation, because you tax people from what they have produced. You cannot tax potential. You tax people from what they have produced. Is from income tax. The 16%. Is it VAT? The 16% that you buy starts at 16%. Goes to government. Apart from that, areas of low income potentials or low income that you've invested very little money, they beat all these other areas hands down. Apart from that, VAT.
I'm trying to think about this in the context of maybe let's even think about something like infrastructure.
Yeah.
And we take a county like Marsabit, and
yeah.
we know that Marsabit is a county that is deprived of infrastructure. We know that roads are not built.
Yeah.
In Marsabit has a square kilometers of 66,000 kilometers squared, and a population of 460,000. Yeah. Compared to Kirinyaga County, that has a 1,500 kilometers squared and a population of 610,000.
Yeah.
So what would be the rationale of allocating infrastructure money in Marsabit versus Kirinyaga based on population?
Yeah, good question. Because you want the overpopulated areas to go to Marsabit. Nothing stops them from going to Marsabit. Okay, if you are a contractor, again in business terms, if you are a contractor, where would you go? In Marsabit where you build road, or in Kirinyaga where probably the roads are there, which I don't know. I'm just giving an example. Where would you go? In Kiambu where probably there are more roads, or in Marsabit where there are no roads as a contractor. It makes even more business sense to go to other areas, to open up, because it's a commercial plan. What you are doing is you are getting money directly from government to open up so that these areas that are already overpopulated, they know where to take their population next. I want to give an example. Nakuru, it's not a Kikuyu county. It was never a Kikuyu county. Nakuru was a Maasai county. But nowadays, it's almost a Kikuyu county. I want to give another example. Lamu. If the population, the overpopulated Kikuyus have also gone to Lamu and invested and stayed there. So there's a Kikuyu in Lamu who was born and brought up in Lamu and does not know whatever happened in Kiambu, Murang'a, or Nyeri, or does not care about whatever happens there because they are comfortable in Lamu. The moment you open up new areas, population will move in. Whether from wherever, whether I've just given an example about the Kikuyu migration to other new territories, In Nakuru, you can look at the key system in investing. In future, you are going to be asking yourself, where have all these people been? Because areas that are highly populated, the population will always look for an avenue to go to areas with less population. That's why it makes good economic sense to invest in areas that are not being opened up. Number one, it is cheaper. It is very cheap to do that. Number two, you get maximum return as an investor in those areas. We should even be talking about tax holidays to people who are willing to go and invest in those areas that have not been invested. Because it is incumbent on any government to ensure that almost all parts are developed and therefore capable of being taxed. Because every government exists because of only one fact: the ability to invest little and to tax more.
Speaking of infrastructure, several leaders from the Mount Kenya region have repeatedly even called out the president on the basis that that region has been ignored when things like infrastructure projects are being launched. We have outspoken members of parliament who have even called the president to action and told him that you're not doing enough for we, the people of Mount Kenya, where you come from.
It's not true. That is mere political shenanigans. If you are to calculate the kilometer in terms of road development, in terms of anything, you compare any place in Mount Kenya and Marsabit, there are glaring disparities. So, of course, there are a lot of politics that go on wherever somebody would want the areas even more developed than already the development that it is at any particular time. You want more development. But can you compare now any part of Mount Kenya with, let's say, Garissa, or let's say Mandera, or let's say Marsabit, or let's say Kilifi? In terms of anything, even quality of human, life, like how the life expectancy of somebody in Central and the life expectancy for somebody in a place like Marsabit, in a place like somebody like Kilifi, can we even start comparing can you say maternal, the first, what do you call that? The first time a woman in Central gave birth and a woman in Kilifi. They are all disparities, all manner of disparity. So that is politics. To develop a country, it takes more. It takes with sacrifice. I want to give an example. When East German and West German joined, the GDP of West German and the GDP of East German was like, Mickey Mouse. The East German economy was like a Mickey Mouse. So what did the West German do? They invested heavily in East German. Today, you don't care whether you are, in East or West, because they evenly, took development there, had a Marshall Plan, and today people are comfortable living either in East or West German. The same in this country. Unless we learn to invest in areas that we've not invested before. Even for those people who are saying, give us more money, they are still going to end up with more problems.
Do you think it's a financial risk to invest in a place that has not had previous investment? Because I'm trying to imagine, I wake up today and I go to Mandera and I attempt setting up a communications company. Or even a technological company, based on maybe the discussions my team will have come up with. Do you think it is that risk that businessmen or business persons are afraid of?
Yeah, that's why we come to government. That's why we are saying unless government intervenes, you are not going to have to build hospitals, you cannot build school as an individual. And why do governments exist? Government exists, as Abraham Lincoln once said, to do to a people what the people cannot do themselves in their own individual capacities. So it is incumbent on any government
to invest in those areas that have not been invested. But yes, you can start a company like a telecommunication company. Yes. So what do you expect of government? Number one, you expect the government to offer you capital. You expect the government to give you tax holiday, because you'll be pouring people to go to those areas with fewer people. Because with more people you tax them, but with few people, even manners of taxing them becomes a little bit more complicated.
More difficult. I've lived almost all my life in Nakuru, and you find that even parking, a few years ago, the parking was zero. We did not need to pay any parking fee to either the municipal council, like that. But when the population came, we started paying taxes. Now you cannot even imagine a situation whereby you can come to town without paying taxes. So, and with that, Nakuru gets more revenues. When will that happen in Marsabit? When will that happen in Mandera? When will that happen in Kilifi? When will that happen in Lamu? Where you can get revenues to be taxed so that the county can be able to generate enough revenue for itself.
Thanks for that. It's another edition of Between the Lines, and today we are discussing the third basis for revenue allocation to counties, a standoff that has continued and is still on. We're still waiting for the senators to reconvene back. I will sample a few comments. We have Calvin Ochieng Odhiambo, who says isolation. I don't know what that means. We have a salute to Cynthia G, who is watching. Patrick Prince, good debate. Naomi Kago says, have our leaders invested enough in the already allocated county funds? Because it will make no difference if the third basis for revenue allocation will see the light of the day. Na ni wale walalahoi, na ni wale walalahoi tutazidi kuumia. And walalahoi has been a mantra that you, Mr. Ben, have always been using. Then a salute to also Eric Barry, who says, the one man, one shilling is a selfish idea. It drives the idea that some areas deserve development more than the others, which is not wise.
Yeah, actually, it is a tyranny of the minority, where a small minority, because they are a majority in certain areas, behaves as if, Kenya belongs to them and to them only. So it is it can only be termed as the tyranny of the minority. Because Kenya is not Mount Kenya, Kenya is bigger than Mount Kenya.
I'm trying, we've been following the principles of public finance, Article 201, under Section B, states that the public finance system shall promote an equitable society.
Yeah.
Section 2, Part 2 says, which says that expenditure shall promote the equitable development of the country, including by making several special provisions for marginalized groups and areas.
That is the basis of now Article 204, where now we are talking about equalization fund. We are talking about now developing those areas that sessional paper number 10 discriminated by law. Discriminated by law. And so it can only be corrected by law, that we actually go out of our ways to open up the new areas. Without which, even, and I repeat, even in areas that are overpopulated, where are they going to take the excess populations? Where will you finally, because you become saturated, where will you take your extra populations?
And I think the discussion has been running on different platforms, not only today, but even in the past 3 weeks that the Senate has been at a stalemate. And as it is coming out clearly, there is a section of people that feel that that mantra is selfish in itself and in its entirety. At the same time, these people will argue that yet we are the people who run the economy, because we do have the numbers, we do have the businesses that we're running.
That is not true. You do have the numbers. How many? Central Kenya is hardly 22%, meaning the rest of the country is the majority. You know, you can be a majority in your area, but the moment you open up, you're only 22%. Okay, businesses. How much does Central contribute to the GDP? I would consider again it's too little.
What?
So the idea, the practice of the idea that the schools are superior to the rest of the Kenyan community is archaic. It's something that should be discarded. It's something that does not help the ordinary Kikuyus, because again, if you go to the poverty index, the Kikuyus are again very poor. The ordinary Kikuyus. So let's talk and we talk with figures. Let's talk and we talk facts. You know, every person in Kenya has now gone to school. You can no longer say we are many and you are 22%. You can no longer say you contribute, the maximum, and you contribute, let's say how much? Let's say you contribute, the amount of money you contribute is less than, the percentage.
We shall continue the discussion.
So, and that is very important. The point that you are raising is very important. The moment you develop into a people that they are superior to the rest, you are creating two problems. You are creating problem among the people who believe they are superior, and you're also creating a problem to the people who think they're inferior. That is the problem. And we've had this problem in Africa everywhere. We had the Igbo problem in Nigeria. We've had this other problem in Ethiopia about these other people who fight. What do you call them? They are the majority in Ethiopia. It's a community.
Yes.
Yeah. The problem with having, planting the seed that you are special,
Superior.
that you are superior, that everybody else is inferior, that only you should be considered, that you are not willing to sacrifice. At the end of the day, what comes out, you develop more problems, you get more problems, and you get more enemies.
And we will discuss this when we come back. Let us rush straight to the Senate and hear what is there. Thank you.
Nearly 4 days discussing this issue. And when we left Naivasha, there was no Orengo motion, there was no Murkomen motion because Senator Murkomen was there. It was a decision that was reached together as a Senate. So, Mr. Speaker, I plead with you because what I'm seeing, and when we look at the way it has been portrayed, how this allocation may go, we are making the same mistake that was made during the colonial period. We are making the same mistake when paper number 10 was discussed by the National Assembly. And that sessional paper number 10 was really described that it was neither African nor socialist, because it was saying that resources should go where there's already development. And that we don't want to repeat. So, Mr. Speaker, I am begging, and I've spoken to many members in this House for the last 1 week. And I had a session with Senator Yusuf Haji in the last 1 hour. And together, I think we can continue to talk until we have a position that is accepted to most of the senators. And I think we should not be afraid that our integrity may be lost because we are seen to be dithering. A lot of decisions that have changed the world have taken quite a bit of time. Even at Serena, we took quite a bit of time. Even after the wars, the discussions that came about, people took a lot of time. So when some people are saying that our integrity will be undermined, and as soon as we make a decision, the debate will be out there, that people disagreed along these lines, I think that is not the right thing to do. So I want to thank Senator Wetangula, because he's the one who came with this proposal, so that all the amendments that are before the Senate, including the Olekina amendment, including Senator Ali's amendment, including Senator Gidiomi's amendment, including Senator Sakaja's amendment. We have an opportunity to discuss them fully with their simulations so that when we take the vote, we know what the decision we have made and we are prepared to live with it. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to go beyond that, but I beg the House, I really beg the House that we sleep over this matter and meet at the next sitting, by which time through your office, we may have organized such a meeting to ensure that we have consensus on this matter. I beg to move.
Have seconders?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in looking for, I beg to second this adjournment motion. Mr. Speaker, in looking for consensus, one must be ready to take a very painstaking process. Mr. Speaker, this week, tomorrow, we are barring one of the most skillful negotiators for peace in this region, President Mkapa of Tanzania. I do recall, Mr. Speaker, we went to discuss in Dar es Salaam about peace in Burundi with the late President Nkurunziza, who was then a rebel fighting to take government. And we sat with President Mkapa, Mr. Speaker, for 72 hours continuously. 72 hours. Negotiating to find a consensus. And at one point, I remember us taking over 12 hours to reach a consensus on just one small thing. I always tell my brother, the distinguished senator from Mandera, we sat in Safari Park with President Museveni to negotiate about Somalia. A man said something that infuriated a woman in the room, and she stood up and hit him so hard. He fell on the floor, and somebody stood up and said, "Isideji, Isideji, Isideji." By a Kenyan in Vanga, that the pain of a Kenyan in Turkana
that now the kind of options that we have on the table, at least we shall not have a gaining and a losing. To me, I thought that was the main problem, Mr. Speaker, sir, why this discussion was so protracted. Now, with the kind of two options we have, please, Mr. Speaker, sir, to make the decision with and sisters, because we shall go home knowing no single county has lost or has gained this financial year, next financial year.
Utula Kilonzo Jr.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to oppose. And the reason I adjournment is this. Mr. Speaker, since the last adjournment, or even the previous adjournments, Mr. Speaker, we have not met. I sit here as a leader, and I know the sort of caucusing that has been happening over the weekend. Some of us had to switch off our phones because we know what the caucusing they were doing. They called one senator here, one senator there, in a room somewhere, in a room in another place. Mr. Speaker, Senator Sakaja and I were requested to look for a middle ground. That proposal by Senator Sakaja was as a result of request by the majority and minority leader. Now, Mr. Speaker, I would have expected the very least that all those senators who have amendments would have come and debated those amendments. At that point, you can say, before we vote, can we go and caucus? But we know that even the chair finance was not ready to move. I'm aware, and I can say that openly. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you postponing this is just making sure that we are lobbied and lobbied and lobbied and phone calls throughout the night. We are not sleeping. We are being called, statements being issued. Mr. Speaker, today, I want to see, the book of Psalms says, I shall prepare a table in front of you of your enemies. I want to see senators voting against Makueni. I want to see senators voting and saying the chair of BBI who sits here should lose money. It's simple. Today is the day. Today is the day, and when we leave, Mr. Speaker, I want to see the people who are prepared to hang Makueni. So do it now. Don't postpone our misery. Hang us now. We are ready. So that from tomorrow, no senator will say that there is a country or a county of bushes, of livestock and shrubs. No senator will go to a wedding and threaten us. Threaten us on the floor with your vote. I oppose.
Senator Kindiki Kidure.
Mr. Speaker, I oppose. At the outset, Mr. Speaker, I want to say I have a lot of respect for Senator Orengo and Senator Wetangula, both of whom are my seniors in the legal profession. However, today, Mr. Speaker, this House is faced with the fate of the young man in the book by Chinua Achebe, Arrow of God, who was sent to deliver a diplomatic message to the other village. And an old man called Obierika asked whether it was in order to send a young man without first preparing the young man with the skills to carry both fire and what the House has to do today is to be able to carry fire and water in one. Mr. Speaker, the story that brings us here today this afternoon began in the 60s with great nationalists like Ronan Gala and others. Unfortunately, 4 years down the line, they lost the battle. They closed the floor. Those who were favoring a situation as we have today, where a lot of resources remain at the center, took advantage and brought out sessional paper number 10 of 1965, which simply said keep money in Nairobi and use it to develop places near the railway line. And because the Coast Province was then a protectorate, it was left out and marginalized with the rest of the country that were further from the railway line. Mr. Speaker, devolution came to sort out this problem. But today, we are faced with a choice, and no amount of procrastination will help. Let us make our decisions and live with them. Mr. Speaker, as I end, the sponsor of this motion and the seconder have not given any time frames. So we are just wasting time and dithering and looking bad in the eyes of Kenyans. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we have spoken enough. Those who are against other parts of the country and using very derogatory terms, we want to tell them, you may not be brave enough to answer us today, and perhaps you will, but I want to remind you, as I end, of the lion that chased an antelope, and the antelope fell over a cliff. And the lion asked the rock, have you seen my antelope? And the rock did not reply. He asked the other rock, have you seen my antelope? The rock did not reply. And the lion, Mr. Speaker, you may not answer me, but you have heard me. Mr. Speaker, I oppose.
Senator George Khaniri, then.
Mr. Speaker.
Then after that, we shall have Senator Susan Kihika approach.
Mr. Speaker, to vehemently oppose the motion moved by Senator Orengo, the leader of minority. Mr. Speaker, in my long stay in the House of Parliament, I have never seen a situation where the leader moves a motion and the whip opposes the same motion. What does it tell you, Mr. Speaker? What does it tell you, Mr. Speaker? That even if we extend time, I don't think there will be any agreement that we are seeking for. People have already taken positions on this matter. We have options on the table for us to decide on, and the time is now, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what we were all opposed to was the idea of some counties losing money. Senator Kangata has put it very well, that all the options that we have on the table will guarantee that all counties will get what they were what they got in the last allocation. As a Senate, we must be guided by Article 96.
Order, senators. Senators, consult in low tones. Order. Social distancing. Senators, please. Let me tell you, this house will be closed down. Okay,
Mr.
proceed.
Speaker, as a Senate, we must always be guided by the provisions of our Constitution, and in particular, the provisions of Article 96, that the Senate represents the counties and serves to protect the interests of the counties and their governments. And therefore, as a House, we must always be ready to stand for all the counties. An injustice in one county is an injustice to all counties. So we want to know today, who are these senators who are not abiding by the provisions of our Constitution, and in particular Article 96? This selfishness must come to an end. Let us know today. Mr. Speaker, we oppose the motion by Orengo. We are ready to debate the motion by Kibiru and the amendments that by Senator Sakaja, so that we take a decision today. The country is ripe. The country is awaiting the decision of this House. I oppose.
Senator Susan, then I will put the question, because order, members, order. We have to make a decision after I put the question, because if we decide to continue, then we will need time to debate. So because the arguments are clear, those who are for adjournment and those who are against. So once I put the question, we'll put a vote, and then the matter is decided. Senator Susan.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to oppose the motion and state that, Mr. Speaker, as much as I respect the leader of majority as well as Senator Wetangula, I believe that that is not the right direction. As we stand here today, or as we sit here today, the country is waiting to hear what it is that the Senate will come up with regarding this formula. Mr. Speaker, by postponing the decision, we just keep kicking the can road. We have had about a year or so to canvass on this formula. We have had many sittings that we have
Let's
been
consult in low tones. Order, senators. Let's consult in low tones. Let's observe social distancing.
Mr. Speaker, we have canvassed on this issue of the formula for the last 1 year. We have had very many meetings. We have also, in the last few weeks, mobilized and lobbied and come to the House to have the same decision or take the same decision. And every time we have decided to postpone the inevitable. Mr. Speaker, I believe that it is the right time to proceed. Let what will be. It will be the same senators a week from now, 3 months from now, a year from now. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, sir, whatever it is that the senators will come up with here today, even a year from now, some will not be satisfied and some will be. So it does not make sense, Mr. Speaker, to keep postponing what we must do. Mr. Speaker, being a leader means you must be decisive. And we cannot be indecisive and expect to lead this country. So, Mr. Speaker, I call upon the Senate to go ahead today and handle this very difficult issue. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, let us get it done today. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, order. Senators, take your seats. Observe social distancing. Senator Baringo. Order, senators. Question, then thereafter, we shall have electronic voting, and those who are outside will come in our normal way to vote. No. Order, senators. You know, for adjournment, because of we want to give everybody an opportunity, because those who are out there will be disadvantaged. Let us be free to everyone. Yeah. I put the question, which is that the debate be now adjourned. So prepare for the vote. Okay, 1 minute, the bell to be rung for 1 minute. Okay, order. Senators, take your seats. Take your seats because we want to vote. And those who are in the other chamber can start coming forward. Sit, take your seats. We are voting. Sit, take your seats. Okay, let's vote. Eh? Bado. Start voting, start the voting. Those who are in the extended chamber to come. Vote, 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 vote. Those to be assisted. Assisted voters, those in the other chamber, please come. Okay, observe social distancing, please, please. I'm pleading with you. Come vote, take the minimum time so that you observe social distancing. Observe social distancing. Honorable senators, those who have voted, clear the way, please. Those who have voted, clear the way so that we observe social distancing. Yeah. Okay, those who have voted, please clear the way, clear the way. Let us observe social distancing, please. Okay, order, order. If your name is not there, you just write your name and sign. Please, let's make haste. Yeah. Okay. Senators, take your seats. Okay, order, order. Take your seats. Take your seats, order. Take your seats. Take your seats. Take your seats, senators. We have something to do. We have some timelines to meet before we proceed. Take your seats, senators. Order, senators, take your seats. Take your seats, please. Order, take your seats. We have timelines to meet. Otherwise, you'll adjourn by default. Take your seats. We have only 2 minutes, please. Senator Sakaja. Yeah, who is moving? Who is moving? Okay, Senator Khaneri.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order number 31, paragraph 3A, the Senate resolves to extend its sitting time until conclusion of business listed on the order paper as order number 9 and 10 of today's order paper. I call upon Senator Sakaja to second.
Senator Sakaja.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's pretty straightforward. I second, due to the time that we have left. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I now put the question that pursuant to Standing Order 31-3A, the Senate resolves to extend its sitting time until conclusion of business listed in the order paper number 9 of today's order paper. As many of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many of our contrary view say nay, the ayes have it. Okay, take your seat. I want to announce the results. Take your seats. Okay, honorable senators, these are the results. Abstentions 0, noes 40, ayes 7, the noes have it. That means then we go back to the main motion and lead of whip. What's your? What's your point of order?
Speaker, since we have many amendments, I thought you would direct us on how we prosecute them, so that in sequence, because some of the amendments that are proposed by Senator Olekina and myself are similar to the ones of Senator Sakaja. So it's important we know how to prosecute them, so that we know whether, once Kangata moves his amendment, Senator Kangata will move to the other amendments, or we'll go to voting. That's what I thought you would direct us. Thank you.
Okay, to Senator Kangata is make an amendment on the committee's motion. Then once we are through that, we'll take a vote. If it carries the day, yes. If it doesn't, then we see what to do next. Senator Kangata.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to move the following motion. I'm moving the motion to amend the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the third basis criteria for allocating among the counties the share of the national revenue for the financial year 2021 to 2020 to 2021 to 2024-2025 in the following manners: that the motion be amended by deleting the full stop at the end and inserting the following words. I quote, "Subject to the following amendments to the report: A, that paragraph 26 of the report be amended by deleting the phrase commencement financial year 2021-2022 appearing on page 16 of the report, and B, insertion of the following new paragraph immediately after paragraph 26 of the report. 27A, the proposed third basis stroke criteria for allocating among the counties the share of national revenue for financial years 2020-2021 to 2024-2025 shall commence in the financial year 2022-2023. B, despite subparagraph A, the criteria applied to allocate among the counties the share of national revenue for the financial year 2019-2020 shall continue to apply until the commencement of the criteria under subparagraph A. Mr. Speaker, sir, the reason I brought this amendment was because...
Greetings and welcome back. That was the Senate, where we've just witnessed a vote on whether the debate should be adjourned, and 40 members have voted to have the discussion going on against 7 that felt that there was need to adjourn the motion once again. I think this is an indication that the Senate, the majority members of the Senate, want to be done with this thing once and for all.
Yeah, they have said that they have taken a lot of time, they have canvassed, they have mobilized.
Yeah, I do not support that idea, and that is the reason I brought this amendment, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, originally, when the committee came up with this formula, there was an uproar among senators and many Kenyans. They said, oh, we are going to have, 18 counties that are going to lose money. And that narrative was even propagated by the media, Mr. Speaker, sir. So I started talking with my colleagues, asking them, what can we do to remedy your problem which you have with this formula? And therefore they told us, if there is a way you can do so that you don't lose...
The need of allocating more funds or more resources to several counties over other counties in regards to maybe the GDP of these different counties. And we were having a situation where you were explaining to us why should we have more money allocated to Kiambu over places like maybe Kilifi and others.
Yeah, we are saying that it is prudent to open up areas so that when a county becomes overpopulated, remember, all Kenyans have freedom of movement. You can invest anywhere. the government should be able to protect lives and property of every individual Kenyan investment. So we were saying the moment one area becomes overpopulated, it's natural that there will be migration. And we are saying as we are migrating, it is good to go to countries that have less population. That's why there is need to build schools, to build hospitals, to build infrastructure, to make it investment welcoming and friendly to many investors.
And I think it's something that will dictate the better part of the debate that is going on the Senate on the formula that will be used.
Yeah, the formula that will be used, they had mentioned about those things that I've just mentioned, that we open up new areas, that we provide schools, hospitals, water, infrastructure, roads. Yeah.
And I think maybe at the end of it all, we will be able to have a clearer picture of what awaits our republic. Now, something that has come out actually in the debate was the 2022 elections, where we are having several senators who are maybe eyeing different positions come that year. We have several senators that are aligned to different factions that will be eyeing different positions come 2022. And this will be a major factor. This the disbursement of funds by this the allocation will have a triple effect, even heading into the election year.
Yeah, and there's a thin line between, conflict of interest, where you vote and then you are going to have to implement. Again, all those subtle lines between, conflict of interest, where you'd want more funds to go to the county because you are the next governor probably, and all those things. But yes, politics is influenced by, the next electoral cycle. It is dictated by who will be what after, the voting. So a lot of senators would want to be governors, and for obvious reasons. It seems in Kenya that the projection is senator,
governor, MP, maybe MP first, then senator, then governor,
and then probably the presidency. Because we also have enough governors who finish their 2 terms who are in the presidency, which is a good thing. The progression should be like that. If you survive being an MCA, you become an MP, you go to the Senate, you go to be a governor. By the time maybe probably you are going for the presidency, you're experienced enough. You've weathered very many storms, and you can be able to be, a good leader. Yeah.
And I think maybe we already have an idea of maybe the kind of leader you are.
Yeah.
Based on your previous experience.
Acceptance by a good section of the electorate. We can even judge you by, have you grown your country? Like we have the Makueni example of public participation, where other governors now go to learn how to do public participation. What can we remember you for? If we vote for you or we don't vote for you come 2022, what will we miss by not having you either representing us as an MP, a senator, or even being our governor? You should have something that made us give you that position. What was that thing? How can we judge you? Yeah.
And it's a very good thing. Now, away from the revenue allocation bill and the discussion there, to COVID-19 matters. Yesterday, the president addressed the nation, and actually, I don't want to sound pessimistic or a prophet of doom, a section of Kenyans thought, because of the rising number of confirmed cases, the president would actually close down some towns. What did you expect before the president?
Okay, looking at the numbers, we don't have a lot of them because it's percentage. What Kenyans look at are the numbers, but what actually scientists work at the percentage. So the moment is 10% constantly, because if you If you just do 2 tests, probably you're going to get 0% increase. If you do 3,000, you're getting the numbers you're getting. The percentage has been very constant, between 10% to 15%. Then this the way the disease or COVID-19 progresses. So at the beginning, lockdown was a solution. But as you go on and on, lockdown does not become a solution because the COVID-19 is already in communities. There's nothing to lock down anymore. At that particular time, it was appealing that everybody takes personal responsibility so that collectively we can be able to defeat COVID-19. There's nothing to close down anymore. We cannot lock down the country anymore. It will not make any sense. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Ben, for finding time to come and share with us on the different issues that we've been discussing.
Thank you very much. It was my
It's
pleasure.
been, thank you very much. It's been another edition of Between the Lines. I've been your host, Karanja Jackson, and we have been discussing the county revenue allocation debate that still goes on at the Senate. For all those that made this possible, and all those that found time to watch, comment, and even comment on the different on our different platforms, we want to say thank you, and until next time, stay safe.
This financial year, Kiambu does not gain at the expense of Tana River. In this financial year, Moranga does not gain at the expense of another county. Mr. Speaker, the health parameter in the formulas that are before us are completely wrong. You will see that a county like Homa Bay, with the greatest disease burden, with the highest prevalence of HIV and AIDS, is allocated the least amount on that health parameter. Something is wrong with that formula. There are those who are convinced that this is a formula that advances the 1 man, 1 shilling principle. Look at the per capita allocation. It is a fallacy. It is not in this formula. But we have to take a decision, Mr. Speaker. We are on the horns of a dilemma. And as someone has said before, if you cannot have the one you love the one you have. We must adopt a formula that will apply properly without causing losses. Mr. Speaker, let me finalize by saying that we cannot convince the country to work with us if we resort to language that is borderline insults and borderline intimidation. And Mr. Speaker, as I support the amendment by my friend Senator Kangata, I will also advise him that in his weekend activities, it should never be my way or the highway. It should never be biting the bullet. It should never be we either adopt or BBI collapses. BBI was not meant for only one corner of the country. BBI is meant to unite the entire nation. And nobody should pray for that process to collapse over 316 billion in a 3 trillion Kenya shilling budget economy. Mr. Speaker, I second and I support the amendment.
Okay, order. Senators, take your seats. Senators, I now propose the question, which is that the motion be amended by deleting the full stop at the end and inserting the following words, subject to the following amendments to the report. A, that paragraph 26 of the report be amended by deleting the phrase commencement, financial year 2021-2022 appearing on page 16 of the report, and B, insertion of the following new paragraphs immediately after paragraph 26 of the report. 27A, the proposed third basis criteria for allocating among the counties the share of national revenue for financial years 2020-2021 to 2024-2025 shall commence on the financial year 2022-2023. B, despite subparagraph A, the criteria applied to allocate among the counties the share of national revenue for the financial year 2019-2020 shall continue to apply until the commencement of the criteria under subparagraph A. Senator Cherargei.
Thank you, Speaker. From the onset, I rise to support the amendment by the Majority Whip, Senator Irungu Kangata. Personally, I was of the view that it should have taken an immediate effect, because the additional of 1.4 billion that should have come to Nandi County should have done wonders. But considering becoming a patriot and looking at all issues that has been raised, I have agreed. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I was not even of the view to delay for 1 year. But now, according to being a man of a big heart and compassionate to our friends across the country, I have accepted on this, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in 2007, President George W. Bush told Iran that all options are on the table. And I'm happy today, Mr. Speaker, that Senate is going to make a decision. We had met for more than 5 to 6, this is the 6th time, and yet we have not made a decision, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I agree this is the right time that as a Senate we must provide a direction. We must agree with this amendment of Kangata so that we can dispense of this formula and allow counties. I agree it would have worked against many counties, Mr. Speaker, because the budgets and the budgetary process had begun for this financial year. Mr. Speaker, I urge my colleagues, let us support and move forward, Mr. Speaker. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the country needs to move forward. We must agree. I have heard the second of the motion, Senator Kajwang and also Senator Kangata. Those are the issues of BBI or handshake. Those are things people can discuss in burials or funerals, Mr. Speaker. And I'm happy the President has banned any public gatherings. So you might end up discussing in WhatsApp groups. Mr. Speaker, we must move forward. Let us desist from any other issues of discussion of either BBI or handshake. Let us protect, as provided for under Article 174 of the Constitution, on issues of devolution, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have read the committee report. There are many parameters that have been used to arrive at that formula, Mr. Speaker. I agree it might change. But one thing that will not change in allocation of resources in this country is where resources will always move to the people-driven agenda. That is one thing that will remain constant. Even as we look at the upper and poor of Kibra, we must consider the people of Nandi. We must consider the people of Mandera. Mr. Speaker, we must push for an equitable society, but we must not punish populous counties simply because we have many population. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, some of us have always stood for 1 shilling, 1 man, 1 vote. And that is what we have been trying to do to achieve equitable sharing in revenue in this country, Mr. Speaker. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, we can by 6, we can put 2 matter to rest, because it will give more time for counties to adjust their budgets. Finally, Mr. Speaker, even as we postpone, as we delay the immediate effect of this formula, I want to challenge counties that they should also work on innovative ways of ensuring they come up with own source revenue. I agree in the IBEC, and Senator Kajwang has said this. When Senate has been fighting for more allocation to counties, governors have been going behind our backs with the national government and cutting a deal. When we were pushing for 329 billion, governors already made a decision with the national government of 316 billion. So we want to challenge the governors. They must also be innovative in generating their own sales revenue. Mr. Speaker, I support this amendment. Thank you.
Senator Mogeni. Give him the mic. They are working.
the initiative of building bridges, but who want to come to this floor and threaten the same building bridges initiated by the President, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if we love this country, Mr. Speaker, we must move together, Mr. Speaker. And moving together, Mr. Speaker, means that we must care about the interests of the 47 counties, Mr. Speaker. It does not make any of us, as a senator, proud to ensure that we are taking money from Turkana, from Mandera, from Nyamira, giving it to another county, Mr. Speaker. That does not advance the dreams of our two principals, President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and the former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga. Mr. Speaker, the only concern for some of us here, Mr. Speaker, is that we should not cause pain to any Kenyan by reducing their allocation of funds that we give to those counties. And what this proposed amendment by Senator Kangata implies is that, yes, we are going to starve your finances, but we are going to allow you to smile for 2 years, then you start mourning for another 3 years. That is not something I can support as the Senator of the county of Nyamira, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, I oppose this motion that is supposed to mislead the people of Nyamira. That we, yes, smile for 2 years, but after 3 years we start mourning. If you want to kill us in Nyamira, kill us today, not tomorrow. And the people of Nyamira are watching, I can assure you, they are on TV watching here today. So, Mr. Speaker, I oppose this amendment.
Senator Linturi.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this amendment. And Mr. Speaker, I'm one of the very happiest senators this afternoon after defeating the adjournment motion, because, Mr. Speaker, it is said that as leaders, you had better make wrong decisions than fail to make any at all. So for whatever it is, Mr. Speaker, and I do not know the outcome of this debate, I'll go home knowing very well that the matter of the formula will have been decided in whichever way. So to me, that will be very good progress, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, realities must be spoken, and we must always be ready to tell the truth. We also say that the Kawans die many deaths before the actual death. And Mr. Mutula, Jr., you had better listen to this, my good friend. Because I've heard you very clearly saying we want to slaughter you, let us do it. My brother, I'm very confident and very happy that the kind of optimism that you invite your death today. I will also be very naive to continually give you palliative care when you are terminally ill. You had better go now than continually sit in hospital and continue wasting our money. So today, Mr. Speaker, I want to remind the members of this House that we cannot run away from our constitutional duty of passing a formula for whatever it is. We must do it. And because we must do it, we shouldn't be in a position to think about these issues, thinking of a greater Kenya. And, Mr. Speaker, I want to stand here clearly and speak because I'm proud to have come from a county called Meru. And the other region that many people would also want to intimidate and blackmail throughout by trying to impute or try to tell us that we've sat on people for a very long time. The poor people in Meru, in Chuka, in Timau, Kangeta and everywhere else, feel the same pain as the poor people in Kwale or in Kisumu or anywhere else. So when there is a proposal on how to share resources for this country, for service delivery, either for health, for water, for agriculture, or for whatever it is. And the bearing on the formula is on the basis of the people that so deserve those particular resources. We must be very clear in our minds that we all cannot be the same at the same time. Parameters have changed that are being used to allocate money. And for that reason, there will be those changes. So when we are discussing this particular matter, let us be very honest with ourselves. Let us be candid and say, yes, some of us, for whatever reason, and they will not want to start rubbing wounds, that have had an opportunity to benefit from a formula that has also disadvantaged other people for a very long time, and we cannot be able to speak about it because we are afraid of or being associated to becoming from the people that are seen to be powerful. So, Mr. Speaker, when I speak here, or anybody else coming from a county that deserved so much money and has not been getting this money going to his county, we must also bear that remember we have a responsibility to push money, fair allocation of resources to the people that we represent. Mr. Speaker, I am cognizant of the fact that we must always be able to compromise. And a compromise has been agreed. A proposal has been brought before this House by the majority whip. I don't find it difficult for us now to say, let us go now and start thinking on how as counties, as senators, we can engage our people and especially give the task to governors to raise more revenue so that at least when the formula apply, then at least there will be enough own source revenue going by the counties. Mr. Speaker, we continue fighting because we are poor. If we were all working very hard, if we were all paying our taxes correctly and timely, we would generate enough resources. And I am sure, because most of the governors in this country have sat there to enjoy and do not care about how much money the revenue they get, because that is why when you compare when we are in the defunct county councils, more money used to be raised, yet the revenue streams that used to apply that particular time are not as many as this time. So we have a challenge as a nation, we have a challenge as the leaders of this country to come with ways and see how we can generate more revenue. And out of generation of more revenue, then there will be enough money to share. We will not continue fighting because of poverty. Let us think out of the box. Let us create wealth so that there is money to share. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support.
Senator Olekina.
Mr. Speaker, sir, and to my honorable colleagues from both sides of the aisle, I rise to oppose this motion vehemently because this motion does two things, Mr. Speaker, sir. The motion...
Yes, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, sir.
Okay, try to keep your mask on.
The motion proposed by the majority whip does two things to this country. It divides this country into two, and it pushes more resources to those people who have always had resources. Mr. Speaker, sir, the challenge we have in this country is that sometimes people think we are ignorant, but we are not. Earlier on, Mr. Speaker, sir, the majority, or rather the chairperson of the Finance Committee, read his report, and he gave reasons as to why he was proposing to deviate from the parameters which were proposed by the Commission of Revenue Allocation. Mr. Speaker, sir, what this does is that when you increase health to 20%, you go against every principle, and even you go against the Ministry of Health policy. Mr. Speaker, sir, their budget declaration was very clear that health, the amount that should be given is 15%, 17% minimum. But that, even if it's a minimum, by increasing it to 3%, Mr. Speaker, sir, what happens is that you don't come in and tell us how did you get, what statistics did you use? Because that takes money from counties like Narok. And it will be shameful for me to go back to Narok and tell the people of Narok that as your senator, I've sat there and I've witnessed a few people divide this country and also kill the dream of the president and also Raila Amolo Odinga in uniting this country as one. Mr. Speaker, sir, what the 3% does, it benefits 3 counties. And that is the counties that has more households. That is Kirinyaga, that is Kakamega, and Bungoma. While our counties, where people are sparsely distributed, they lose money. Mr. Speaker, sir, if you tell me now, today, that you want to postpone this problem for the next 2 years or 1 year, you are being indecisive. You will still have this problem. And you are being selfish, because what you're doing is that you're telling Kenyans you only care when you are the senator, but